I got a fever, and the only prescription is an Audi S8. Strap yourself in. It's going to be a non-bumpy, very smooth, extremely fast ride. Now, I can give you a little bit of a rule about Audis. The higher the number, the bigger the car. Your A2 is a tiny little trunk thing compared to this one, the A8. But wait, it's not an A8. This is the high performance version. This is an S8. So you take an A, you put an S on it, that means more performance. You take the number, make it bigger, and you got a bigger car. And this incredibly vast vehicle, 123-inch wheelbase, is the Audi S8. Powered by an enormous V8. Well, it's not that enormous, except in terms of power output. And they do that with, oh, excuse me, I got a horse in the way here. Here we go. They do that with turbocharging, as near as I can tell. Although the funny thing about this car and the specifications, they don't really mention the fact that it's turbocharged, but it is a V8 bi-turbo with a turbocharger at the end of each of the exhaust manifolds. And it puts out, well, when I show you the engine in just a second here, it puts out a ridiculous amount of horsepower and torque. And it's also extremely long. And it's got your Quattro all-wheel drive system because, well, you need it because, I mean, by the time the rear wheels get where the front wheels were, the traction's probably different. So you really require all-wheel drive. And it has all the amenities you would expect from a fine German luxury sports sedan. It also has that characteristic of getting smoother and quieter and more composed the faster the car is driven. This is your executive transport. This is how you get to work if you're one of the wealthy people. This is one of these incredibly well-built tankettes of a vehicle that's just rock solid, designed to really protect anybody inside, even the lowly chauffeur who's the person driving the car. It's a real marvel in that it feels incredibly well built, even though you can get that feeling just from driving it around the block, that it's something special. It's something bigger and more formidable than what you may be used to with a lot of other cars. And let me tell you, it has a price tag to reflect that. This is not something you're going to pick up at your auto mall that's just got 2,000 miles on it as a gently used vehicle. No, sir, this is the big cat. And if you decide to purchase one and you don't use it to transport precious objects in the back, or at least precious objects that'll pay you a lot of money to transport them, you've made a mistake. Because this is what this car is for. It's no nonsense, yet pampering. Did you even know there was such a thing? Well, there is. So let's go a little closer and see what we got in the terms of the hard parts. My dear friends, do you like pistons? Do you like lots of pistons? Do you like lots of pistons spinning around producing 563 horsepower? Well, that's something, I guess. Well, look what I have for you. This is Audi's 4-liter V8 that has 2 turbochargers and a whole lot of filter material. What do I mean by that? Well, one of the first things you notice when you open the hood on this thing is air filters. Look at that. You can actually see the filter element on it. See, there's one there. And there's one over here. I mean, my goodness gosh. All this plumbing is involved with your turbocharging, of course. And first of all, we have longitudinally placed V8 with your cylinders 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I like to count the cylinders out, and, so all the little Tarkingtons can understand it. Even little scooter boot Tarkington, he's learning his 1s and 2s and 3s, and he's not actually a human being. He's a dog of some sort. But if you take a good look at this, you realize that this is a tightly packed engine because it has so much plumbing that is necessary. I mean, look at the density of this. You know who you need to go and check out and point out everything for you, where all the turbochargers are and all that other stuff? You need Ant-Man. Ant-Man would jump out down in there and take a look at it for you and find stuff. But look at here. I mean, we are talking high density, great high density packaging, and all kinds of, like, what's all this here? Well, that looks like a terminal that you could jump start the car somehow. The battery is probably in the trunk or under the rear seat or in the glove box or somewhere else. But my gosh, 563 horsepower and 490 pounds of feet in the torque department. And it's a very smooth engine, as you would expect, and has all the normal modern amenities in terms of auto stop and start. It also, I believe, has cylinder deactivation to try to reduce fuel consumption, but good luck with that, because it has the gas guzzler tax, because this thing is thirsty, as you would probably expect. You don't get that kind of number out of these things without having to burn some fossil fuel. And it also has a requirement for premium fuel. Not that there's, I don't think that's going to be a problem for most of the people that will buy this thing. It's $135,000. I think you could probably afford the insurance and the premium fuel for it. But that is a work of art in terms of presentation. Not something that most owners would, or if you have a chauffeur driving around, I don't think you see the engine very often. The chauffeur has to have a snake with a wrench in his teeth to get to stuff. But otherwise, you would hope with a vehicle of this type that you're not going to need a whole lot of serious surgery on this engine for a very, very long time, because you're paying a lot of money and you expect a lot of quality. Trying to figure out what the oil is. Let's see. Oh, there we go. 040. 040. You guys ever seen that before? Wow, I haven't. But that's really something. So let's look further. And by the way, there's your air intakes up here for your, see, right in here where your intercoolers and everything else are. You have an actual, real, functional hood scoopy type situation, but it's subtle. It's not great big maws on the top of the hood, but rather it's underneath there. But everything's got to be fed on this car. Air, fuel, everything else. Now, what do we have here? Well, we have a massive brake array. Look at the size of those calipers in there. They're nice bright red for your pleasure, to say, hey, I'm serious. And these are Autosport Audi wheels, which are really kind of amazing when you look at them, because they have, they're almost spindly in nature, but they're super high strength. So, I would just say you're state-of-the-art wheels more than anything else. These are Goodyear Eagle Sport tires. Fortunately, these are the all-terrains. I kid the all-season tires. They are all-season tires, not all-terrain tires. Although you could probably deal with a fair amount of terrain adaptation, because it has an air suspension on it. And whenever I drive it, which is most of the time, old Boots is out there where there's not, the pavement ain't real good or something like that, I put the suspension in the high mode, and you actually have a fair amount of clearance. Otherwise, this is like, you'd run aground in a reef with the Queen Mary 2 or something like that. So, What size tires we got here? Can I read this for you? You can probably see it better than I can because the change and, oh, they are all season. Yes, yes. Hell, I can't tell. We'll have to look at the rear one. So we'll just, we'll take a little walk here. It's gonna take a while to get to the back of the car, 123-inch wheelbase and all. Ah, we'll be there. Oh, here we are. We're here. Well, there's our treads wear ratings, and there's our tire size. These are 265, 35, 21s. So there's your wheel size, your 21 wheels. And again, even the rear brakes have huge, huge rotors on them and beautiful red calipers, and they look built for serious cooling as well. Something else you need to know about this, in addition to the adaptive air suspension, we also have four-wheel steering. So that, you know, at really low speeds, the rear wheels will pivot out in the opposite direction that you turn the front wheels. And at higher speeds, they tend to go the same wheels as the front wheels, so it goes like crab-like into the next lane on your Autobahn when you're going well over the speed limit. And let's have a look back in the trunk, because as a chauffeur, you will need to know how much room you have for the boss's trunks and stuff. Well, somebody's been hauling stuff back here. Oh yeah, that would be me. But as you can see, it's vast. It goes way deep in there. You have room for like all your luggage. If you have two people in the back of this thing, a couple, if you will, about to go to Rio de Janeiro, let's say, on a business trip, and you want to bring all the little wheelie carts that you got all your audio-visual displays for your stockholders or whatever, you got plenty of room for that stuff back here. There's no problem. And underneath here we have a big temporary spare tire, even a jack. Boy, the poor chauffeur's gonna have to deal with that jack. It's not made out of like carbon fiber. It looks like it's actually made out of metal, so. How about that? But vast? You bet. It's all inclusive, this trunk. And there we go. See? Whisper smooth and quiet. Even the trunk motors are designed to please. So what do you think, guys? You like this you like this look? You like this great big long low? It actually has, you can tell by the middle of it, it has a very high roof line to maintain that massive rear space, which you will get to enjoy very shortly. Soon. Soon, my friends, soon. I want to see if I can find here. Let me look up here real quick. I want to know what this official color is, because I like this color. It's a very deep metallic. You see if I can find this here. Oh, there we go. It's a very deep metallic, and it is, hang on, almost got it. Almost got it. Let's see. The interior color is black. Black. The exterior color is ultra blue metallic. Okay. Yeah, I see that. I see the ultra in this blue. I would have said like a royal blue or blue ribbon, am I blue, something like that. But man, is this car all about the interior and the drivetrain, or is it also about the appearance? I think it's very understated, and that's good, because you don't necessarily want all that attention when you're the CEO of Yo-Yo-Dine. You want to keep low profile. But anyway, we shall now delve further into the interior, because that's what it's all about. And then we'll go for a drive. Are you ready? I am. Are you in fact ready for the rumbly-tumbly that is the Audi S8 virtual cockpit? Well, I tell you, this is another one of those, we have a luxury sport vehicle from Germany. So, given this, this knowledge that this is what we're looking at, you know there's going to be about 1 billion different adjustments you can make to various things, and there's menus within menus within menus. that you can navigate through to kind of customize what you want to do. We'll start here with, I've selected the sport mode for my instrument cluster because it's the one that looks most familiar, most normal, if you will. But wait, what if we go to S Performance? What does that do? Do you want to change? Yes, I do. That's why I'm pressing the button. And there we go. There we have the, this may look familiar to you with previous, both Volkswagen and Audi versions of things, of cars, has these choices that are actually very similar. As you can see here, we got our very interesting tachometer, that's telling you that the twin turbocharged V8 is currently purring along at about 950 RPMs. And we have all kinds of things, settings, within each cluster, if you will. There are different things we can do. Our long-term memory, I love that term. Our short-term memory, and we can do lap times, you know, if you're so inclined. Our lap time so far is 0. We're not doing any laps at the moment. And then lap statistics, there's nothing there. No one's been lapping. And reduced display, what happens if I push that? Oh, that just goes away and you're left with this. You have your digital speedometer down there, and then you have your that oil temperature is not indicating anything. I guess it's just too cold. And you have your trip mileage over there, 265.6. And 4798 is your actual mileage that you have. So that's what we have there. Let's go to something even stranger, because that's the way we roll. We'll go to dynamic. Oh, it goes in the middle on that one. Let's make that disappear. There we go. Now watch this. Watch this here. Woo! Whoa! It's running in the opposite direction that you might normally think. The tachometer bridge, trail, thingy. It almost reminds, do you guys remember that thing, what was it called, Moon Patrol? It was an arcade game and you drove this little moon vehicle. Well, anyway, you're all way too young for that, probably. I'm talking the asteroid era. But, so there we go with that. And again, you do have your things you can pick from here if you so desire. And the same ones you saw before. Have I left out anybody? No, those are the 3 we have. And like I say, sport is by far my favorite because it just has an air of normality to it. But we also have a heads-up display. I'd show that to you, but I have it turned off and I'm happy with that. So the control interfaces are real interesting on this car because you have your basic haptic response flat screen type controls everywhere. Even for your, look at this area, this is your vents, all the way open and all the way closed. I mean, how weird is that? But this is a $135,000 car, so they have to do things like that. It's just, it's required. Go back to home setting. And as you can also see here, if I go down to our drive selection modes, we have individual and auto, which I usually leave it on, and dynamic and comfort plus. But the most important gauge here is this one right over here, which that's where our air suspension is set. And as I'm on an unimproved road that requires a little bit of ground clearance, I have in fact put the suspension up on the maximum mode, which is just raise and lower. There's no in between as far as that goes. That's what you can do. But I tell you, raising the suspension on this big long limousine of a car is extremely important and extremely good to be able to do, because it really keeps you out of trouble. It doesn't scrape on it. It works well. I mean, and another thing that fascinates me about it is how quickly it inflates the little airbags on the suspension to raise the chassis. And you're talking about, you know, at least 5,000 pounds of car that this thing has to lift up, and it does it very quickly. So that's good. So down here in our climate control area, it looks fairly familiar. It's not as intuitive as you might think. And again, you got this haptic adjustment. It automatically went on the defrost there, but I'll go back to automatic and it'll do its thing. But that's, you know, that's kind of what we have nowadays on more and more cars, especially in the high end. Whereas you have a fairly substantially sized screen to play with, and a lot of different areas where it's trying to customize the minutia of your climate experience. And some of the stuff up here, like this is your rear. Whee! See, look at there. Up comes your shade. Yep. So privacy for your, well, actually, and also to keep your rear passengers cool and comfortable. They have all kinds of options back there, which you will soon see. But keep on going down. Our drive selectors here, and here's where we turn off our traction control. And maximum defroster mode, which I actually used this morning. It was much needed. And here's our parking and our camera thing. Now look at these cameras. Isn't that something else? 3D. What's that? Ooh, that's pretty much accurate. How does it do that? That's amazing. Because it looks like there's somebody standing behind the car, and he's got on his, of course, our car, that's not what color car am I in, I'm driving here. That's not silver, that's what. But there we are in this part of the driveway, and that's actually right. And that's that. And we'll take away the 3D and just go to the regular, what's over here? Graphics. Let's go to graphics just for fun. Ah, there you go. So this will check your surroundings when you're parking and that kind of thing. Go back to camera. Like I say, the haptic feedback on this, you have to really push this thing in order to get it to respond, and that's kind of, I see we're doing the old rolly thingy here. I literally had this set up with a frame rate that worked with the last car I had, and it's not the same frame rate, obviously, that this car has, so this is the age in which we live. But anyway, there's your cameras. There's all that. That's very, very convenient for you. Turn that back off. This one here is just discussing what, if you have maximum and individual and basic driver assistance, which systems you have turned on. Parking assist, steering assist, lane migration, you know, all that stuff. All that good stuff that some of you will like and some of you will ignore completely. And then we come down in here. Let me shut this just to make it look as luxurious as possible. Here we have our carbon fiber inlay on our shifter. Now this shifter is an electronic, it looks like a mechanical, but it's basically electronic. And I'm not real good friends with it because I don't find the action on this shifter to be easy to deal with. There's reverse, and then neutral, and then drive. And then you can go and do your stick up and down if you want for your transmission, your 8-speed, I believe. Is it 8 speed? Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yes. 8 speeds. And your paddle shifters, which are almost minimalist. They're kind of lower than most of the paddle shifters, but they're good. You know, it works fine. And as I mentioned or will mention in the driving sequence, one of them, there are hundreds. This transmission is amazing. It is so smooth and so crisp. It's one of the best I've ever sampled, and you'd expect that for the money. Well, yeah, but a lot of times it doesn't work out that way, but this is one sweet transmission. I'm very, very, probably to me, from a mechanical standpoint on this vehicle, it's the most impressive thing. The engine's great, of course. Being a 4-liter twin-turbo V8, it's pretty much what you'd expect. Idles very smoothly, has tons of power, but the transmission's special. It just really, really shifts beautifully. So what else? Well, over here on the steering column here, we have to our right here, we have basically, this is sound interface. And this is the talkie woman, which I've had a few arguments with. Not as bad as the one I had with the woman in the Mercedes C300 though. That was violent. It was horrible. Anyway, over here we have this is just basically your information center. And view, of course, look at that. You can minimize. Yeah. It almost make it look like if you accelerate real quickly, it comes right at you. Yeah. I'm sure there's a more important purpose for that, but it entertains me just on its own. There's your cruise control lever, which is on the opposite side that Toyota puts theirs. And when they're using what I consider to be the traditional Toyota system down the lower right, and it's okay once you get used to it, this particular unit. You resume by pulling towards, you cancel by pushing away, you set, and then you adjust your speed up and down that way, and this is the following distance on the adaptive cruise controls right there. So that's all pretty good. That's all very intuitive. There's just a lot on this car though. It can vex you, and especially if you just got out of something like a Mercedes and then you got into something like a Hyundai and everything else. You see, one of the things you pay for in the more expensive article is complexity. I still think when it comes to the operation of a car, one of the most important things is simplicity, and that's just me. And by the way, you're probably, if you're driving this car, you're a professional chauffeur, so you're going to know how everything works. You're going to know all that. And Mr. and Mrs. Havison in the back do not need to be bothered with all this. It's unnecessary. So how's our room? Naturally, it's very, very spacious here in the front. The coupling distance is really far. So like your chauffeur's here and your number one security person's over here. And they're enjoying, by the way, their Verona leather right there. And it's pleated for your pleasure, and has about 1 million adjustments and massage, of course. Where is that? Let me see if I can find that for you. Messages, news calendar. Nope. Please collect your mobile device. No, I don't want to. Don't tell me what to do. I don't see it right off the bat. It's around here. God, I get so confused on these cars because they all do things a little bit differently. If we go here, how about if we go, I'm going to find this for you to show you we'll go here, oops, here we go, and go to settings. Settings, hello. I don't like the tactic feedback on this at all. It just doesn't work for me. Entertainment message, notification, announcement, contacts. Well, I was just playing with it the other day. Where would you put it, ladies and gentlemen, in the jury? Well, I would put it somewhere where I could find it and access it really quickly. I don't see that. I'm going to turn my seat heat off. I know how to do that. And, all right, we'll defer it. We're just going to defer it right now because I can't easily find the... Well, you have a lot of controls in the normal place at your lower left hand. That you can go up, you can go down, and actually you can actuate the, I can do it right now. There we go. If you push the massage button, which I need to relax, wouldn't you agree with that? That's what I need to do. Relaxation, intensity full, and it's working on me right now. It's basically grasping my buttocks, and oh, now we're just letting it down, and there we go, lower back. Yeah, it works. That's good. Want to see navigation? Sure you do, because it's naturally a virtual reality situation with your Google Maps, which you will see as we are driving about at high speeds in this wonderment. So I've had about enough of the front. Let's take a look at that back end, huh? Because that's where all the cool stuff is. Please switch off the ignition. I'm telling you, I'm tired of you asking me to do things that I don't want to do. You know, it's just my nature. As you can see, the rear door is huge. It's a limousine. And there is, in fact, easy, easy access. Massive, massive leg room. Ugh. Snow. Let's get that snow off there. Oh yeah, no, this is more like it. And see, you got your little LED here along with your carbon fiber. And then you have, you can just completely stretch out. You got a drive shaft tunnel that's so big you could well, you could play with little cars if you're a child, or you could probably put a chess set down there if you wanted to, and I'd probably put it on the armrest if I were you, but just room, 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 and room. Now, how much control do we have here? Well, here's our vents, similar to the front ones that are done with the electricity and virtuosity instead of just a little thingy. But here, when we put down our armrest, this is our command control center. Putting it on automatic, putting that on automatic, set at 68 degrees. You got your heated seat. Let's see how well that works. And you have your ventilation as well if that's the way you want to go with that. And here we have an area to plug in 2 of your USB-C devices. And the armrest is at a real nice height, so that's very, very comfortable. And you just have tons and tons of room. And what have we here? I think if I do this, well, first of all, we have our dual map lights. Yep, yep, yep. And then this thing here is, look, you would think that's where that thing would be, but it's not. Oh, stop that, stop it. And oh, look up here, this is nice. This is for your vanity. Look, you can see yourself. Hi, how are you? You like my new hat? That's a cool hat, isn't it? Yeah, there we are. And and I like this little strip up here too, by the way. There's just all kinds of nice little accents around here. As I'm trying to in vain figure out how the heck I open the, I don't see the control readily at hand down here, which is where I would expect to see it. So maybe let's look at the door. Well, we have this. I hear things. Oh, I know what that is. And what's this? Oh wow, you can open the vent on the front from the back seat. You see that? That's weird. Huh. Oh, they do have fun with me. There's that, and there's that. What about this one? There we go. That's what I was looking for. Isn't that pretty? Ain't that nice? Yeah, you got your power lines, but I apologize for that. It's where I decided to park. But there we have our trees in winter. And then we can close that off too if we desire. Farewell, winter trees. So what more do you want as a passenger back here? You got everything you need. You got 2 12-volt accessory things. You got a sound system that'll, well, it'll shake your private parts. That's how powerful the sound system is. And you got great ventilation back here and wonderful. You see, you got the vents right there for to heat your feet in the cold weather, which is what it's doing right now as we speak. So what do you want in a limousine? Well, this is pretty much it. You could, now a lot of people are screaming, where is the rear seat DVD? Well, you want a home theater basically in the back seat. I'm sure that's available at an additional price of some sort. If not, you can just bring your own 17-inch laptop and just plop it in here and watch on that. But if you have to travel every day and commute in nasty circumstances, let's say going from Manhattan into New Jersey, which is always the example I use, this is pretty freaking comfortable. And if you wanted to have a premium car service, this is it. This is the vehicle you want, and it can handle all weather. It does very well in the snow, by the way. I tested it yesterday, and I think I have a little bit of video for that. So anyway, that is our S8 interior, and it's vast, it's comfortable, it's high-tech, and it's yours for $135,000. this out, what I've done here, in our drive select, I've got the suspension on high. One of the beauties of an air suspension, when you're negotiating terrain, that this basically Queen Elizabeth II has to do with a very long wheelbase, and is in its natural state is fairly low. You have to watch that stuff. And as you can see, this does a real good job of that. It does a terrific job, in fact. And then what's going to happen, I believe, as it normally does, our S8 will take me down to a lower ride height once I go outside. All right, now here we go. 500 plus horsepower. Get you out here quick. Now what's happening? Aha! It is lowering. The suspension is lowering itself. So what kind of a ride do we have with this vehicle? Well, kind of what you'd expect for the top of the line Audi. It's very smooth, yet very controlled. You definitely got a lot of an extraordinary amount, in fact, of electronics going on that's monitoring everything the suspension does and delivering a ride that is constantly changing depending on the terrain. As you can see, I'm almost down to the little wee bits, which is great, because the little wee bits are what you want when you're on this nice flat terrain. Like all real high dollar sport sedan type luxury creatures, this one is happiest and at its best. God, I'm starting to sound like Christopher Walken. It's happiest when you get up to the higher speeds, the super high speeds in particular, but even just with your regular high speeds, it's incredibly quiet. There's a little bit of road noise, but like that's just suspension noise. That's not even road noise per se. What else you have? Well, I'll tell you. You have the stability of the car. Everything you can tell, this thing was tuned for higher speeds primarily. It does fine at lower speeds as far as ride quality and that kind of thing. It doesn't punish you at lower speeds just because it has the capability of going really fast on the Autobahn and that kind of thing. It's much more tuned to, well, look at it this way. This is one of the main reasons you have all these adaptable suspension components, because that's a big factor in how the suspension responds at higher speeds and lower speeds. Very different requirements are being made out of the suspension at those higher and lower speeds. So the suspension modifies itself to accommodate that. And as you can see, right now we're going about 60 miles an hour, and it is really quiet in this car. Now, as I said, if you watched any of my other videos, when I talk about the infamous Ford LTD commercial comparing the Ford LTD to the Jaguar, the guy says, well, you'd expect that for the money whenever the Jaguar is showing up the LTD, which is in most subjective categories as far as ride quality and everything else, power. But when you're looking at north side of $125,000 for this car, you are expecting some things, as you should. And one of them is a whisper quiet ride, which it has. You get a real feeling like you're basically driving a house. You're driving your big oak desk in your library with all them books around you and all that beautiful mahogany work, where all them books are, them shelves and stuff. But you're going down the highway in it. That's pretty much what you're doing. I don't see any wood in this car, incidentally, this S8. What we got is a lot of the carbon fiber. So it's very futuristic. Is that better for the environment? I doubt it. I mean, it's better for the trees, although trees are completely sustainable. If handled properly, are completely sustainable and biodegradable, whereas carbon fiber takes a lot of nasty chemistry to make. It's really amazing material. Hell, if you're watching this video on an airplane right now, on your way to London, and you're at about 38,000 feet with a ground speed of about 630 miles an hour, you got a lot of carbon fiber that's holding you up there in them wings on that Boeing 777 or that Airbus what is it, the A330, I believe. That's kind of like a Boeing 777. But anyway, all those airplanes nowadays use quite a bit in the way of carbon fiber. And carbon fiber is making its way into cars, but in strange places, like the interior. You wouldn't necessarily expect that's where you'd find it. But it works. I mean, my God, you look at Formula One racers and things like that, the entire body is practically made out of this stuff. And motorcycles have had it for a while too, because I have some carbon fiber bits on my motorcycle, just because it won't rust. It's nice and strong and stiff, and it's incredibly lightweight. And these are all qualities that you really like to have. And as the sun goes down and we experience the twilight, it should be noted that I have seen deer almost every day this week about this time of day. And some of them, about an hour ago, I was in my own personal vehicle, and this deer was standing out in the middle of the highway like this, and he just stood there. And so I got slower and slower, and I pulled to a stop right next to him, and I was about I was about 5 feet away, and it was a young doe, and she's looking at me like, why are these hunters all killing me, shooting at me? And I said, well, I didn't have time to explain it to her. But she finally, and it's interesting because the dog was in the car with me, and he's just looking at her. He's not barking at her or doing anything. He's just looking there. Meeting of the minds was going on. And then she finally just hopped away the way they do. But man, it's not unusual this time of year to see a lot of deer, but boy, this has been excessive. They're all over the place. And I do hear people shooting. I heard somebody shooting just the other day when it was too dark to shoot, and they're out shooting anyway. We're very sensitive to that where I live, because one of our game wardens was going out on some land to find out if a guy was illegally hunting, and the guy shot him and killed him and got away with it. He shouldn't have been shooting. It was a case of mistaken identity. That's what the court case came up with. But it was too dark for him to be shooting anyway. And he basically got off with nothing. Guy works regularly as a prison guard, and he was out hunting later than he should have been. And a really, really nice guy was killed in the process. So all you hunters out there, stick to the basics, man. Make sure of your target before you shoot it. Oh, I digressed. Let's listen to this car now. That sounds turbocharged, sounds supercharged. It's not. To the best of my knowledge, I may have to do some digging, but the last time I checked, this V8 is just normally aspirated. But a normally aspirated Audi V8 is a veritable hell beast in the horsepower department. Like I said, 500, I believe 568, something like that. It's an awful lot of horsepower and quite a bit of torque. And it does this simply to get you down the road quickly. Oh dear. I'll get that in a minute. I'm busy driving and looking out for deer, scanning for deer and other ungulates that may pop out. Oh my God, there's just nothing but ringing and dinging. But anyway, so here we are at twilight in this beautiful car, and this is a real nice driver. And one of the things I should mention right off the bat that's amazing about it, this is a real big car. You got limousine accommodations back where you're at. You probably noticed that. But it doesn't drive like a huge Hulk by any stretch. And this is the beauty of these things, is they are remarkably set up to handle and do everything. I mean, you're spending a fortune. You're spending more than Some people do for a house, and which is insane when you think about it. But you can see the quality, and you can see the fact that, yeah, they put a lot of money in this thing. And in the really important areas, I mean, you got a lot of, I'll go on later about how much I'm not wild about how Audi does their touchscreen. This particular touchscreen takes way too much effort to get it to do anything. But what I consider to be the hard parts, the engine, the transmission, the suspension, the body, the chassis, all these things, they spared no expense in trying to get everything right, use optimal materials and that kind of thing. Now that we're going to roll back in to this area here, and what are we doing? We're going up. Raise. Here we go, raise. How long does it take? At the current speed, we're not moving, dude. There we go. Up. It's already gone up almost all the way. How about that? See, that's fast. And now we're able to, now we're a truck, and now we're able to go down this unimproved area. Well, I tell you what, I just started this car and it told me all kinds of things were wrong. There was an electrical malfunction, there was a rear sport differential malfunction, all this stuff. So I turned it off and turned it back on again, and it's acting like everything's fine now, fine. Let's not discuss what we did and said to you earlier. Well, fine. Well, I tell you. So, we are in our higher suspension mode. Oh. And, oh, here comes the mailman. I think he's gonna stop though. He better. He hit this and there'll be one fewer postal vehicle on the road. So, right now our suspension is adjusting itself. It is lowering itself to be more in tune with the terrain. And we do have a predictive adaptive option on this, a $6,000 option. And what that does is it uses the camera, or the cameras, I should say, to look at the road and try to set the suspension up for what you're about to hit, not what you're currently going over. Neat, huh? It is neat, actually. How does it work? It seems to work well, but it's one of these things that I always wonder about this stuff, because if you just take your regular Audi like an A8 instead of an S8 without this option and without an air suspension, but just a very, very well-tuned suspension overall, odds are it's going to be fine. It's going to take good care of you. So, I'm going to adjust my steering just a little bit here. There we are. But the ride quality of this is marvelous because it's comfortable. It absorbs bumps very well for you. You, my executive passengers, how are you? You have a beverage back there? I would note that the beverage area for the driver, for the chauffeur, is very shallow. Don't want him drinking a lot of caffeine. He'll drive too fast. Don't want him to drive anything that makes him sleepy. So the less liquid, the better. That and the fact that there are so many computers on this car that, well, I shudder to think what would happen if you let the guy loose on some kind of nasty spilling spree. And all right, now we got the adaptive cruise on. So, is this in fact, this Audi S8, is this a halo model? Now the halo model is the term given to like something that most people are never gonna buy, but it's like an upper echelon showing, hey, this is what we can do. And of course, everyone that calls it a halo model is mispronouncing it because it's actually halo model, like, hello there, hello. How are you? It's the same thing that people outside of the formerly great state of Texas, when they say Audi, the correct pronunciation is Audi. But, you know, people just ignore that, so we'll call it an Audi. Some people pronounce it Audi. It's only 4 letters, and yet there are so many variations. Amazing. But this car has a lot of mass. This car has a long wheelbase. This is a big thing. Some would think it boat-like, except for the fact that it does not drive like a large boat-like creature. It really does. They've there's so much engineering at work. There's the basics, first of all, and the basics are just the pure physical dimensions of the car and where they put the wheels. And this thing, it's very large on the inside, especially in the rear seat area, for obvious reasons. But it also, they want something that's going to handle very well, especially. Which market is this primarily for? Is this for the United States market? Is this leaning more towards a European market? And I think it's for the executive CEO jet setter market. People in Europe and the United States and a couple of parts of Australia and Asia, absolutely. And all these areas where we have very wealthy people who need a transport to get them in and out. Well, they're either going to be, right now, just like you are, you're either on your laptop or on your phone, or you're in the drinks cabinet back there. I mean, this one doesn't have a drinks cabinet, but boy, you certainly could. Now, I got to slow this thing down quite a bit here. Going into town, better slow down. That's how we roll. There we go. Whee! That's good, right there. But anyway, that's what the whole cabin is designed for. So you have the wheelbase such that the rear wheels are out of the picture in the back cabin, so it's not in any way really restricting your room, and you can build this nice big space for the people and leg room that goes on till somewhere else. It's vast leg room. But at the same time, this is one thing that's fun to me about Audis is you can be paying the big dollars, and you can be going with the state-of-the-art, all kinds of good stuff, and yet it still has kind of an understated business-like affair. It never gets all frilly and froopy. And that's one thing, when you spend over $100 grand on a car to transport important people, you don't want it all froopy, because most of the kind of people that are going to ride in the back of this thing are not froopy individuals. They are, well, there is that one guy, but they want kind of a business-like attitude. They want an extension of their corporate office with the corner view and the huge walnut desk. They want an extension of that into this car. Now, I don't see any wood in this car. I think I mentioned this before or later or at some point, but it's mostly all the trim appears to be carbon fiber, which is more of a sporting-oriented kind of thing. And instead of being, raiding some exotic teak forest somewhere, instead they raided an exotic laboratory that makes carbon fiber stuff. And so that's the kind of trim you're looking at. And like with the other, I've had a lot of Audis this year, and they're fun and interesting, and they have their certain things that they do that nobody else does quite the same way. For example, right now the map I have on, I can put this map on right there for you. There we go. Uses them Google Maps in addition to actual mapping software, so it's kind of like almost like a virtual reality, but not quite thing. Well, the reality part is this, that's us, but we're animated. And then the virtual part is the map that is actually a photograph of the area, of the region. And that results in kind of a nice map deal, especially the 3D mode that it's in now, which is very pleasant for us to have on our journey. And you can probably already tell this is a very, very quiet car. But again, you want to really be impressed by this thing. You have to take it up to speeds that aren't legal in pretty much any state. Unlike the Autobahn, where you can pretty much drive. The Autobahn, a lot of people think it has no speed limit. No, it does. It depends on what part of the Autobahn you're on. But it's way up there. And parts of like West Texas now, I think I've heard rumors that the speed limit's like 85 or something. And you could just blast across West Texas in this thing. Parts of Nevada, the loneliest highway in the world or in America. Can't remember exactly what the nomenclature was. I was on a motorcycle last time I was on it, that highway. I liked it. I liked its splendid desolation. Until somebody mentioned to me that the whole area is probably incredibly radioactive because of all the testing that went on in the 50s with nuclear. Well, I never was afraid of nuclear stuff. It's nuclear weapons that frighten me. But a nice lonely stretch, and you need to cover some time like this. Imagine, if you will, going from your Hollywood studio, like your Marvel studio. Hi, Louis D'Esposito. How are you, man? Louis can get into one of these things in the back there and have all his Marvel scripts that he's thumbing through, and they can have him out to Las Vegas to see Lady Gaga in concert. They can just whisk him across the desert in a car like this. No trouble. You're there. Bang. You're there. And you'd be in ultimate comfort, provided all those lights don't come on to tell you there's an electrical malfunction. I still don't know what that was about. That was scary. You frightened me, S8. Stop your frightening. But everything seems to be just fine on this car, and everything's working, and the Quattro all-wheel drive system. I mean, had I not had that operating in its normal smooth mode, I don't know, I may have gotten stuck out there where the horses go, because it's kind of, we're about to get snow too. I'm gonna be driving this thing in the snow at some point, and we'll really see. But the Quattro all-wheel drive system on Audis has always been primarily suited best for being on. It's obviously not this particular vehicle is not an off-road. You have your Q series, which, you know, you meet a terrain that is difficult, and that's when you call Q. You know, you want to have Q. But the Q series all-wheel drive is Quattro system is, I think, a little bit different than what they put on a very large sedan like this. In theory, the hard parts are generally the same, but there are differences because they live very different lives. But bottom line here is this car, sort like a lot of the all-wheel drive Q series SUVs from Audi, are designed to go to the ski resort. And you encounter snow on the way up there, and you should be able to just motor right along in safety and comfort. Well, how do you like that? I actually drove this thing with over its 500 horsepowers and didn't get any tickets. That's pretty good. Here's your Monroney for our 2022 Audi S8. The 23 is pretty much identical, maybe a little bit more expensive. But as you can see, it starts out at $116,900, and then we have all kinds of delightful, and I mean delightful, options, including the predictive active suspension, which looks at the road and tells you what you're about to have a crash, something like that, and the dynamic headliner and all kinds of good stuff, all to make your day much more fun. So that's it for this one. This is a real beautiful car, and I think you actually get what you pay for, because it is one solid, fast, dependable beast that will make your passengers very happy. So you guys take it easy out there. Avoid the people like me driving on the road, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Gesandt geworden, sein viel